Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about partial seam piecing. Partial seam piecing comes in handy when you are sewing certain blocks or certain parts of a quilt. And I found that out yesterday when I was piecing a regular 9-patch type of block. Here's the finished block. It's a regular 9-patch type of star, and this was one I had done the day before yesterday, and I like it well enough. It works fine. Let me show you the one we're going to talk about today, because I think you'll see when I say 9-patch, you can see the 9 patches. Okay, here is the same block. It hasn't been sewn together yet. It's a 9-patch block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And usually when I piece these, and the way I did the pink one was I sew them together in rows like this, 3 rows, and then I sew the rows together into the block. But I found that I could do partial seam piecing on this and have the seam allowances come out a little bit nicer. Because as I sewed these together, I kept trying to press the seam allowances to go in a happy way, and they just didn't seem to be so happy. So for partial seam piecing, we are going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to put these 2 blocks kind of together in my head. I'm going to put these 2 blocks. I'm going to put these two blocks and these 2 blocks. See how I'm putting the greens of fabrics together. And so what I'm going to do first is I am going to sew these. I'm going to flip them over. I'm going to sew this to this, sew these together, and sew these together, sew those together. And when I have them done, we'll look at what we do next. Okay, these 2 blocks or these 2 squares are sewn together. These 2 squares are sewn together here and here. And I noticed after I had them sewn, I don't think the last one I did, I sewed these 2 together and left this one set out. So I don't think it's going to make a difference, but we're going to find out if it does. And when I sewed them, I just sort of pressed them to this side. So this one is pressed down, this one's pressed up, so they're going like uphill. All right, now for the partial seam piecing, I'm going to take one of them. It doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to take this top one and I'm going to flip it over and line it up with the square in the middle. And I am going to put a pin right there, so I'll remember. And then I'm going to, about halfway down, I'm going to put another pin, because I am not going to make a full seam. Instead, I'm going to make a partial seam. And for me, since I have this seam over here, I think I'm going to start right where this pin is. You don't have to start there. You could flip this over and start up here and go down. But the main thing is we are going to start sewing right there. I'm going to go back and forward, and then we're going to go right down here with a 1/4 inch seam. I don't know if you'll be able to see this on my sewing machine, but we'll see. So I'm putting it in right where that middle pin was. And I'm just using a regular stitch length, but I am starting, and I'm going to go back stitch a couple of stitches, because I only want this seam to be a partial seam. I'm going to come down to the end, and because I need to show you something else, I'm going to just pull him out and not put my thing here. All right, so see how that seam is only open that far. And now I'm going to sew that, this right here. I'm going to add the, oh, gotta turn this around so you can see. Okay, here it is, it's sewed, partial, this is sticking out. So I'm gonna come over here and I am going to take this and flip him over. Now, I didn't press, but when I look at these going together, it looks like I want this seam that I just made to be going one way and the other seam is going the opposite way. And so just to be careful here, I am adding a pin on each end. Once you do the first partial seam, the rest of the stitching is easy because I'm going to now stitch from here down to the end. Okay, open it up, and I did check to make sure that this is lined up with the seam there, and it looks like it is. So now it's time to sew this green slash on. I'm a lash with slashes. Once again, this seems like he's going this way, so I'm going to just let him do what he wants. I'm going to put a pin right here where they meet, and I'm going to pin right here. And I probably don't need to pin here. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start here, so right down to the end. Now I'm making full seams. Okay, open that up. I got another section done. That looks all right. And now I'm going to add the last one. Well, not the actual last seam, because I'm going to add this right here. Once again, I'm going to flip this over. Now, when I do this one, I'm going to have to pin right here. Again, let your seam allowances go in opposite directions. They like that, and it's easier when we're finished to press the whole thing. We're gonna have to make sure we don't get this in as we sew, but I think we'll be fine. Okay, let's push this one over. And now this is the only thing that we have to add on, and it's pretty easy. We can go back to where we were before. I am going to put a pin right where the seams are meeting. Here is my start and end from before. I'm going to lay this up to here, get them on the ends. And this time, I have enough space. I can start here and sew right down until I get a little past where I had been before, where my seams are going, where I've got the knot or the double seam there. Okay, and let's get that last seam done. Once I get to where that seam is, I'm going to back it up and then go forward. I think I can can show you that. Okay. Here is where the partial seam was, right there. See how I've gone right back over that? So everything is sewn. If it's a very small block or it's very close, you do have to watch that you don't get this in there when you're sewing, this part. But this is a big enough block, it didn't matter. And now it's all nicely sewn together. I will go press it. But now the seams, I think when I go to press, I can have everybody happy, either going one direction, or it was so much easier to press all these seams together and have the block lay flat. So I hope that helps you with partial seams, and they are very helpful in certain blocks, especially this 9-patch block.